Okay, welcome. Yeah, we were discussing kids' sickness. We on yesterday, my 4-year-old, I kind of like the 5-year-old had strep throat or something. She had a loose tooth, and it was one of her front ones for about 4 days, and she just kept like shoving her hand in her mouth trying to get it out. And then after the day after it fell out, she had a sore throat, and I was like, "Wow, who didn't see that coming?" Just shoving your hand in your
How
mouth
much hand
constantly.
in mouth you had? Yeah.
And then
We had our, oh yeah, keep going.
she was sick for like maybe 2 days, and then this morning our 4-year-old came downstairs and I looked at him and I was like, oh no. You just know, the flatness and the lack of energy. You're like, oh shit, this is going sideways.
It's
So
the
yeah.
problem once one of them is down, they're just like, then it's round in a circle. Like I feel
Yeah.
like we had, before we left for California, our youngest was like super sick. He, like had a bit of a fever and like not too bad. He went to daycare on like the Tuesday before we left. Yeah, it would have been the week before we left for California. That Tuesday, he went to school to daycare, got sent home. They're like, he threw up like 3 times. So he got sent home. We're like, great. So that whole week, I was home with him and trying to just not get super sick. Yeah. And so he made it. He was doing okay by Friday, but he had like lots of diarrhea. It was just like, he wouldn't eat, he had no appetite. And then he would just like eat a little bit and chug so much water that then he would throw up and you'd be like, yeah, of course you did. Like your stomach isn't that big. And that was like his pattern for like 3 days. And then finally he was eating a little bit. On the Friday, he went back to daycare. He had been like, a day without throwing up or having diarrhea. And then lasted basically like the Friday, Saturday. And then by Sunday it was like bad again. And we were just like, we left, I think, Tuesday morning or something like that for California, Wednesday morning.
Did he go?
So he came. So the whole family came. So that was why. So we were like, man, this flight, it's not like crazy, but we had 2 flights. It was about a 4.5 hour was our long one. And then the first one was like 2-ish. So it's just like, you just don't know what you're going to get. Like if he's blowing out diarrhea, like every 30 minutes, like we're in for a long haul. So flights were okay, but then when we got there, he just started getting so bad again. So my poor wife had him like attached to her all week. And actually, I think on the Friday of the competition, Friday afternoon, she took him to the hospital because he was just like, it had been almost a week that he just is barely eating, barely drinking. He had lost like, he's like 1.5 and he probably lost like 5 pounds. Like you don't have 5 pounds to lose. Like he just looked bad. Was like so thin, like he just they gave him IV fluids and they were there for like 8 hours because they couldn't discharge him until he peed on his own because he like had enough hydration in him. So they were there the whole Friday. I think I got back, the event's late in SoCal, but I think I got back from the venue at like 10:30, got some food, like waited, and they were home about midnight. And then just like went to bed. My parents were also in SoCal, fortunately. So it was a little bit more helpful to manage the kids. But my parents took Owen for the night so that, because I wasn't home till late, like after his bedtime, right? And
did he avoid it then, or did he get sick too?
Well, he didn't have that. Like I was my stomach wasn't great all weekend. And I think the week with Ethan leading up wasn't good for that. So I think had a bit of it and was trying to not pass it around. But Owen was fine until like today, I feel like, or like last night, he started feeling like not great. And it's not the same thing, I don't think, though. I think he's just kind of got a bit of daycare and maybe a little bit of the runway from all the travel, like in and out of airports and crowds and all that stuff. Cause he was unleashed in the crowds at Wodapalooza. I feel like he was in the VIP, just like same as you're saying, like putting his mouth on like anything he could. And anyway, I feel like Wodapalooza at the best of times, it's fairly dense. Miami maybe more so than SoCal right now, but SoCal is growing fast. And I feel like every time I go to Miami, I come home and I'm like, I got a cold for a week because you just shake too many hands and you can't stay ahead of it. And it's too many people in one place. So I think the family might be dealing with a bit of that, but yeah, Owen was today he was tough. I was expecting maybe a phone call today to have to go pick him up, but Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Not the next
stronger immune system. Maybe as the older kid, he might dodge it.
Hope
We're
so.
going away on Friday. So my wife was like, she came home, took Bodhi's temperature, and was like, "Oh man," I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's getting pretty sick." And then she was like, "Oh, this is typical." And I was like, "No, Friday morning will be typical. We're actually okay. Tuesdays, I can deal with Tuesday to Thursday being shit, and then Friday being fine. But
Yeah, just be good in time. Yeah,
yeah, that's it exactly. I don't want to, because I think similar. We've like, it's only like a 5-hour flight or something, but we also have a 1-year-old. So it's like, if everyone's just pretty copacetic on the flight and just in a tablet or on a book or doing something, everybody's okay, because we can all just focus on the 1-year-old. Yeah, no, it's not. It's suboptimal.
Where are you headed?
Crete, like beside Greece.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. My in-laws didn't buy it. They booked an Airbnb. So they were like, "Oh, like come over and you can just pay for your flights and we have everything else covered." And we were like, "Whoa, this is gonna be so cheap." And then we booked the flights and we're like, "Whoa, it's really not cheap to fly over there." But yeah, no, it'd be great.
I think going anywhere with kids is tough, but it's never cheap to travel with kids by plane. So that's awesome. That'll be a fun trip.
Yeah, we're going to next like March or April. We're going over to Disneyland in Florida, and we haven't told them yet.
Oh, cool.
But we were like, yeah, like we were in Paris last year and we were like, wow, we go over to Florida, it'd be amazing. Like, you know, they'll have such a fun time. And then the further it's been since we've booked the flights, the more it's kind of dawning on us like, oh, Jesus, this is going to be rough, like a rough transatlantic flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can like, I don't know. We were right next to Disneyland in California when we were out there, and we went the day after the competition. We moved and stayed one extra night right near Disney. We didn't go because I feel like we need to wait a couple of years for it to be really worth it. Like I think Owen's 4, and we were like, I think him and for sure Ethan are not going to have the endurance to like do a full day. And we're very much like, if I'm going to buy the tickets, like we're going to be there all day. Like we are going to get every cent's worth out of that. And so we're like, you know, maybe in once Ethan is more like that 5 range and Owen's closer to like 8, that might be fun. That might be like there's like a 3-year window, I think, where we're like, it'll be peak enjoyment.
I think there's different stages of enjoyment though. Like when we went to Paris, I was kind of the same. I was like, what is the 2-year-old going to get out of this realistically? But I think you just enjoy it in different ways. Like the 4-year-old was like dressing up as a princess and meeting the princesses and like, you know, metaphorically shitting her pants every time she did, and it was the best thing ever. And now when we go now, like the reason we're going now to Florida is because the 1-year-old will still be free on the flight. So we were like, let's just suck it up and go now.
Especially for transatlantic, it's like intercontinental flight,
savings.
Like totally. Yeah. Well, hopefully you can get them on the flight on the way there, and like maybe the entertainment system's got some Disney stuff. You can sprinkle some breadcrumbs and get them like build the hype the whole way there. And then
I think, I mean, the youngest, who knows, the youngest might suddenly become allergic to something that requires a lot of like antihistamine or something just before we get on the flight to just kind of like knock him out.
Might suddenly,
he just suddenly gets hay fever. With are the family going to Copenhagen then, or how are you managing that? Because that's quite a busy time of year.
So my whole family came to Aberdeen last year. You know, it's funny. There's a lot of travel this year, right? And I think particularly traveling with kids, we're trying to be a bit more choosy about how it is, because it's also like I'm not as available for a lot of the day, so it's more onerous on my wife to come and like look after the kids. So my parents love to travel and come to competitions still, which is awesome. So often when there's big ones, they try to come to the big ones, and then if Michelle wants to come with the kids, there's at least extra hands on deck. But they did Aberdeen last year, and so this year they were kind of like, you know, not like, you know, been there, done that, don't need to go. But there's other things, because now there's Copenhagen, and they were like, oh well, if we've done one and not the other, like let's just flip it this year. So my parents are coming to Copenhagen, and Michelle's going to come, but we're not bringing the kids. I think we're done with the intercontinental travel with the kids for a minute here. We did a big trip last year around Rogue. Like we we spent a bunch of time traveling around Scotland before the competition. Then we were in London for a little bit afterwards. And then we stopped in Iceland for a few days after that. We made a big trip out of it. And I think it's just, it's, and that time of year is like not exactly the best time of year to be
You're saying
there,
enough time hasn't elapsed from that trip to
the wounds aren't closed yet.
One.
The wounds aren't closed yet. So we, the family's going to come to, well, Michelle and my parents are coming to Copenhagen, but I'm going to be by myself in Aberdeen. And like, for Mesa, when we went there, like I just went alone on that one. It's like 40 degrees in Phoenix that time of year. And that's no place for my whole ginger family to hang out. Like there's nothing to do. Like you're not missing out really there. It would just be being at the venue. So, we're trying to be choosy, but then at the same time, stuff like California comes up and it's like, hey, well, we'll come to that one, right? That sounds a little more appealing. And it was like, they got to hang out on the beach and spend some time, have some fun doing other things. It's easier to entertain kids in some places at some times a year than others. And so we try to let that weigh in. They won't know the difference between Copenhagen or IKEA at this point.
I remember last year at SoCal, Dylan Lohan with their kid was just like, he'd come up to an event and they'd both be like soaking wet because they'd just been in the sea, and then they go and like be digging sand holes or whatever. Yeah, so it's a lot easier there than pretty much anywhere else.
That area is really nice. There's a boardwalk that runs all along, and like my parents, they actually drove down from where they live. They brought an RV and they brought bikes and they brought like a little trailer so they could just put the kids in the trailer and ride their bikes down the boardwalk for like forever. And there's a bunch of playgrounds sprinkled along the way. So you bike for 10 minutes, you stop at a playground, the kids play, you dip in the ocean, throw them back in the trailer. Like it was nice. Like it's pretty kid friendly there. It's you don't have to be that creative to entertain them, which is nice.
Yeah. So what are you doing? So World Fitness Project is like till the 21st or something. So you guys just coming straight back home then for Christmas, basically.
Yeah, we played with the idea of staying for Christmas.
With the kids, I assume.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's like, if we're gonna do that, we got to bring everybody, and then it's a whole thing, and it's not, my family, my parents would have stayed to do that with us, but my younger brother is actually expecting their next kid. Due date is
for everyone or just for me? Oh, is the question.
I think. Am I back?
Oh no, for everyone. There, you're back. Yeah.
Okay, so my parents would have stayed, but my younger brother has a new baby due on December 26th.
Oh wow, okay.
He lives back by them, so it kind of just worked out. We were like, it's traveling around Christmas is a bit hectic, but we figured, if my parents want to come home and be there for that, then we don't have to bring the kids with us to Copenhagen. It's cheaper travel. Staying over Christmas also isn't cheap. And I don't want to make it like everything's about some kind of cheapskate, but
it's a consideration.
The travel back then is like, we just haul right away. We come back, we reunite with the kids, and we do Christmas here with Michelle's family, and Christmas is nice here too. Like, I don't know. We did last Christmas just barely in our new house. Like, we had just moved in. So it was kind of like empty walls. It was a bit of a echoey hall, but this year it'll be nice to just sort of, I don't know, have a little bit of a bigger Christmas.
Is your house fully finished now?
Yes, I would say yes. I think there's a couple little things we got to figure out to the freezing point. Our internet's been a bit weird lately. Our extender is all janky. I think we got to get some updates to that. We finished most of the outdoor stuff. I've been doing a bunch of landscaping. I've got the sauna getting hooked up Monday. So,
Oh, is that what your trench digging was for?
Yeah. Oh, you know what too? I emailed this electrician who was just going to come in and like run the wiring. And I asked him what he needs to do if I need to set anything up. And he just says, oh yeah, like, are you gonna prepare a trench to bury the wiring? And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had to do that. But I just competed, and I'm like, for sure I can. Like, can you tell me what you need, specifications? Like, I'm happy to do that. And he's like, like it needs to be 16 inches deep, and just kind of run basically to the whole length from the house, from the box to the unit. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And 16 inches is actually pretty big, pretty deep trench. And I didn't really think about it until I was like, huh. Okay, so I start digging and I'm measuring and I'm like, fuck, I gotta so I tape a shovel at 16 inches so I can dig this trench, and I basically have to hand shovel it and then put this long shovel down and just see where the line is. And I did a little bit off and on for 3 days. And it's basically done now. There's one section that I have to make a little bit deeper that had a bunch of clay in it and stuff like that. And the electrician was working in the neighborhood here this morning, and I was just watering trees in the yard, and he pulls up and he's like, oh, I was just rolling around here and we're coming here on Monday. Do you want me? I just wanted to look and see so I could wrap my head around it and get an idea of what the job is. I'm like, yeah, no worries. I walk him out back and show him kind of where the trench is. And I say, yeah, I'm not done. I'm going to do another little bit of digging here just so everything's uniformly deep. And he looks at it and he's like, oh, this is way fine. It doesn't really need to be that deep. And I was like, oh, fuck. I spent so much time digging this stupid trench. And the section close to the house is all fill, it's loose rock. It's gravel. It's a shitty dig. So I'm digging through all this stuff, scratching my fingers, and at the end of the day, I probably put 2 hours of work in digging this trench that I just didn't need to do.
It's better than the alternative though, because I don't know, I get weirdly not nervous, but around trades people, I'm very conscious of looking like a moron. So
yeah.
Even I was doing this room, and the builder was like, yeah, you probably do this, that, and then I'd have questions of oh, I wonder, would it be possible to hang the pull-up bar that way instead of that way? But the way I'd lose confidence as soon as I start asking the question, because I'm like, this guy thinks I'm a moron. So just hang it wherever you want. On the floor is fine.
Yeah, I'm apologizing to him. I'm I'm sorry, it's not it's going to be better than this. And he looks at me dude, what? No, this is fine. You didn't even need to bury it this deep. I was like, what? I thought I specifically asked that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to turn a sprinkler off. I just remembered I had it wrong.
That's all right. I was watching Boys Interrupted yesterday, the Justin and Dallin and James and Jason, and they were talking about the season. I was curious. They were talking about next season, and they were kind of, is it? They were talking about, is it sustainable and that kind of stuff. You didn't do the game season this year, so I was curious how, when they were showing up to SoCal, were you oh, this is great? I actually feel pretty good. I feel I don't feel as beat up, and these guys look like they're a bit more shook than I am.
I don't know. It's hard to know how people feel, right? I think, yeah, I don't know. I think you feel it more in the training than you do in competition, probably. I'm probably a little bit better off than them. That was 3 in a row, pretty close succession for them. And I mean, on our team, we had Emma that didn't do the games, myself, and that's probably it. Yeah. Danielle was there, and Olivia was there, and Alexis was there. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to it. There's a lot of load. There's a finish line somewhere. I think we just don't know where it is. This is a great experiment, but the question, I think, we were in that meeting in SoCal, and if WFP continues to ramp up and we don't know where that finish line is, let's say they go 4 or 5 events is the peak that they can sustain. Where does that calendar line up with the game season? And if the game season is now adding back things like quarterfinals, okay, it's another thing that you've got to put on. That's another weekend. That's how many competition weekends can you have? And I think this has already been the case for a little while. It doesn't affect as much the very elite athletes who don't have to do qualifiers in large part, and B, already have an extremely competitive skill set and level. What it does really affect is someone's ability to break through to that level because they don't have enough time to build. You need to maybe make a decision, a long-term decision at some point in your development to be I'm taking half of the year of each of the next 2 to 3 years to focus on development and growth, because I need to get my level from here to here in order to be competitive in the arenas that I want to be competitive in. So I don't know, like, I think you might find if someone is the best, like if you're like James Sprague, you're pretty young, you've got a really competitive skill set in a lot of different things, maybe he doesn't need to take as much time to do that, and he can do a lot of the premier competitions and do that for a number of years without really worrying about it. But if you're a tier below that and you want to be competitive against someone like that, you may have to pick 1 or 2 events to focus on and then spend part of your year doing more building. Because like when I got to do my building in my career, the season was super linear, super simple. I maybe did like 1 other out of season competition in a year, but I had like 3, 4 good years of just like very straightforward development. And then to be honest, like since probably like 2018, 2019, like I haven't, like I've been competing a lot. And it's fine. Like my level is fine. Like I make very slow improvements, but I'm also not convinced that if I just at this point at my age, like went and buried myself in like a high squat volume phase, that would be the answer to all my problems. Like that would probably cause some other problems. So, I think that it depends a little bit on the athletes. It depends a bit on training age, depends on a lot of things, but we're going to find out at some point, like where the burnout is. Like, I think, to be honest, it's hard to know. And it sounds like, I don't want to sound arrogant in any way, but like, I don't know if I'm like some kind of like freak. Like, I think that in the field, I'm older than most guys and I'm still able to be pretty competitive. And I don't know why that is. Like, I haven't made like I don't know, like, I don't know what it is. I just think that there is a point where physical burnout exists. I think our sport is quite susceptible to mental burnout, because if it's just like repeat blow after repeat blow, I think that is more often what happens, is like the stress of competition and the intensity of the training back to back to back, coming back from a competition and having to put yourself right back into that fire is hard on people, and it slowly wears away at your brain. And I think that is more often what wears out in athletes with burnout than physical components. So like maybe I just have a good head for that. I don't know, but I think that we're going to see where that line is physically if it continues in this direction, but definitely mentally, you're going to see people who have to just make a decision to protect themselves and decide. And I think that the best answer to this whole thing is if certain components of the season can work together, and like if certain WFP events could operate as semifinal events, and like if there was less friction between the 2 seasons, maybe it would mean less competition weekends overall for everybody. And I don't know, like, we don't know that meeting we had. We don't know how many semifinals there are. It's very loose right now. They kind of said like, there's going to be a certain amount of semifinals, and then whatever spots are remaining, they're going to give out through the online semifinal, which will happen last. And that'll be super flexible, because if semifinals drop or add, we will add or subtract spots from the online semifinal. So like, we don't know. I don't know how many events are like trying to become semifinals or year over year are able to sustain it. Like I know back in the sanctioned event kind of era of 2019, 2020, we saw a lot of turnover where events would be a semifinal or qualifying competition for 1 year, and then maybe it wasn't worth it, or they couldn't float it or whatever, and then they would drop for the next year and a new event would replace them. So I think we just don't know what the turnover is going to look like. I think it would be nice if strong, reliable competitions were able to engage in that. But in a lot of cases, if they stand on their own feet, they maybe feel less inclined to do so. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that we'll see what happens with everybody. Like it's definitely shaping up to be a busy year.
The deadline was only like today or tomorrow or yesterday or something, so for people to say we want to be a semi-final. So I guess in the next couple of weeks, I mean, it's still significantly earlier than basically every other year, which is good. When you were in that meeting, then did you get, you talk about them working together, did you get the sense that was a likelihood, a possibility, a probability?
I don't know. So I think the underlying thing that, is like maybe the quiet part that needs to be said more loudly is that we don't know what the new ownership is going to do. Like all of this effectively means nothing. Like I half listened for most of it just to see what the season was, but until new ownership takes over and puts a stamp of approval on that, or says, hey, we don't like that, we're going to do this thing, I honestly don't really feel like it's worth that much effort and time to understand it. Because I don't know. I think that current ownership is significantly less likely to try to work with other competitions than new ownership would be. And I only say that because I don't know anything about the new ownership, but I know a lot about the current ownership. And, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And they traditionally just haven't been keen on reaching across the aisle or collaborating with other events that are strong. Like it was frankly surprising to see them come do that at Wodapalooza because they've really shown no interest in working with Wodapalooza for many years. And I don't think that's because Wodapalooza has been slamming the door in their face.
Is that the first time you were with Dave since the games last year?
Yeah.
Was that fine or awkward, or how was that?
It was fine.
Did you, when you were watching, say, the other semifinals like last year, like, well, maybe not watching, but aware they were happening, like Mayhem, Syndicate and those ones, and then the games, was there FOMO, or were you kind of like, I'm fine with this is okay? Because that's obviously the first time you haven't been there in a long time.
It was fine. Honestly, the semifinal stage last year, I didn't clock that much. I think I skimmed some of the Mayhem Classic like at the end of days when it was done to just kind of see what happened. Just curious, like where people are at. And then that might be the only one I really like followed in any way. And I think in large part that's because like, I don't know what the order was exactly, but there might've been one other semifinal before the online semifinal. And the majority of strong competitors and contenders qualified through the online semifinal and then didn't show up to any more semifinals. So like the people that I know who are like my friends who I would follow out of interest had kind of already qualified through online stuff. And so I kind of didn't watch. And I think that's why they're now trying to move it to the end of the season.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
So that doesn't happen, because that was for sure. And then the problem is those people who put their hands up to be semifinals, they probably sell less tickets and they're less attractive to fans because they don't have, Dallin Pepper showing up and like, that's the reality. And that was the same problem we had in 2019, 2020 is like a bunch of people were like, I'm going to go to this, that, and the other semifinal. And then as soon as they got their spot, they just dropped out of everything. And then the organizers who extended an invite to them and then marketed them are kind of left holding the bill. And they're like, oh shit, like that sucks. So I think they're trying to find ways to remedy that. And that hopefully helps it. I think that would be better. It's better if we can have people qualify live. I think I'm a big fan of live competition. But yeah, it's onerous for people to run good live competitions. And so I don't know. I mean, you maybe know more than me about how the semifinals ran last year. I didn't follow much of it. I did the same thing for the games where I tuned in kind of end of days to see how things went. And I'd scrub through some heats quickly to just sort of see where the drama happened. But I followed it a bit, but the games, I think they did a good job of, like, they did what they needed to do this year. And which in my opinion was fine. Like they took very few risks. And that meeting was funny because I think there were people who were unhappy about that because they thought it made the games less, games-like and less exciting. And it felt more like a glorified semifinal and blah, blah, blah. But like, to be honest, if you're in that team's shoes, like you needed to hit one right down the middle. Like you needed to put something, a little crowd pleaser on that was like, fine. It was low risk. Show you can do it well and effectively and communicate well and have no problems and just make it be smooth because everybody's waiting for you to stumble. And like, I think they did a good job. Like they communicated well around it and they did a good games for what they had. And I hear people that love Albany, which I thought was funny because that used to be my regional. So I'm familiar with the streets of Albany. So
Yeah,
I had a good
I think
laugh about
the streets of Albany are the problem. I think Albany itself
yeah,
is like the venue was fine and inside was great, but I think the surrounding
it's where the
vista.
venue is too. There's like you can kind of see in the distance the nice Capitol building, and like I think there are areas that are fine, but where that venue is, like I remember parking down the street there, walking up that hill past the boarded up buildings, and
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm just thinking, is
yeah,
my car still going to be there when I go back?
it's maybe not the place you want to be congregating with your friends in between events and stuff like that. So, but they're moving next year. It sounds like, no matter what happens, I think they will be. So, but definitely, I think the question is always what new ownership wants and is going to do. And hopefully we find out about that in relatively short order, because I think people do want to plan a little bit and start to wrap their heads around what next year is going to look like. I think regardless of what your level of competition is, I mean, we want to do it so I can start to decide like, hey, am I competing 10 times next year? Am I competing 6 times? Like, what does this look like? And then, make arrangements and make the appropriate apologies to my wife and with lots of time. And then, if you're someone who quarterfinals is your goal, then you just know what the deal is.
Does that mean are you a lot more likely to do this upcoming season than you were last season then? Let's say this time last year.
More likely, yeah, for sure. I don't know if I will. I think it just depends what it looks like. And to be honest, it depends a bit on how WFP finishes this year. Like what they're going to do next year. It's very much for me at this point, like a numbers game of like, how many do I think I can do? If I think I can do it, and they, like I said, I think that they did do a good job. They did themselves a favor in terms of like, I think how the public is perceiving them now after this year's games. I think they're moving in the right direction again after a couple of years, in my opinion, of not. So, I'm not like vitriolic into like, I'll never do it again. The whole point was like, things need to be better for you to attract athletes back. And if they're doing that, then yeah, sure. Part of me is also like my first, what's this year's games is like the 20th anniversary.
Yeah. So
my first games as an individual was on the 10th anniversary. And then that would be kind of fun to do that, do the 10th and 10th and 20th. But it depends. Like if it's going to mean to just do the games, if it's going to mean adding 5 more competitions, because I got to do like all this other jump through all these hoops, like maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'll have to decide. That's why I want to see, I want to have like the ownership dust settle so we can go, okay, now whatever's coming from now on feels more set in stone or more real. And then I can actually like put ink on a calendar and like start to like map it. What does it actually look like altogether? Because right now it's just like, it's so much maybe. It's like, oh, query this, like, oh, maybe the dates are here. Like they released all this stuff, but it doesn't actually mean anything. And I think
do you not think that
it just doesn't?
Like the way that I read it was, with the season being announced now, considering when it was announced, like they could have waited till December like they did last year, but the way that it was announced now to me means regardless of what happens, this is our season because it's been announced. So even if new ownership take over next week, next month, whatever, the wheels are so like in motion already that to stop it and change would just be like bad PR, bad business. You know what I mean? That you'd just be like, okay, let's just keep going for now, and then like in August we can reassess for 2026. Like that's like when I heard the season's been announced and they're talking about moving the games, I was like, all right, they're setting all these dominoes up so that when the new ownership come in, the first one has already fallen. They're like, well, I mean, we just got to leave that alone, I guess.
So I got a question for you. Do you think that was intentional by that team?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. If it's like, okay, we don't know who's going to take over, so let's put all the wheels in motion. It'll satisfy the athletes who've been complaining about not knowing far enough in advance.
Well, I don't think that has anything to do with.
Well, I think it ticks all the boxes though. It's like like you weigh up a list of pros and cons, and you're like, all right, pro.
So here, I do think that I think that you're right in the sense that that's what they hope. I think that the games team that's there, that is at risk of having some personnel moved around if new ownership comes in, anyone there, I think that the more things that they can try to, more agreements and contracts and deals and whatever that they can set up before new ownership takes over, the harder it is to remove any of that. And I would agree that that's probably their hope. And not like, I just think that that's business strategy. I think that if there were members there that are at risk of removal, even just having them there for another year, working with that new team reduces their likelihood of removal. So I think it's 100% strategic move in my opinion. And I think that they didn't release information 2 months early out of the goodness of their heart. I think it was protection to some degree. But I think that doesn't mean that new ownership can come in and do whatever they want. They certainly can. So I just think for me personally, it's just not worth, because I don't want to have to rework my schedule again. I would rather wait until it feels more real than now. To me now, it's just like, it's not really anything. The new ownership could certainly come in and then go, no, we wanted to get rid of some of this team. I don't know why they did that. That was operating in bad faith. And they could definitely make any kind of a media release that just would make it look, that would make sense as well, for them to be like, hey, these people shouldn't have done that. These people shouldn't have done that. In the midst of a transaction, I don't know why they would go start making a bunch of agreements. That was a terrible decision for them, and we were removing them as a result, or whatever. If the new ownership came in and said that, I would be like, you're kind of right.
Isn't it a shot to nothing though? I remember thinking when Dave announced the first workout, really far out from the games, I remember thinking well, he's going to be there for the games now anyway, because when that workout was announced, my first thought was, okay, if someone comes in, takes over the company and fires him, then Dave can be like, well, they never saw the full fruition of my programming and I had it all set out. If they come in and don't fire him, which would be the sensible thing to do, I think, they then have a punch bag. So they can say, well, the reason the game was so shit is because we left Dave there. And now look what happened. So now, and then they have a reason to fire him or whatever. And then I would say the same for this one, that they come in, it's already in motion. They say, well, let's just see if the games is really successful, then it's thanks to us because we left them all in situ and they had a really successful games. If the games is an absolute shit show, we can say, well, they put the wheels in motion and we didn't feel it was right to stop the season midway through. But now we're going to make, you know what I mean? It's like a win-win for the new ownership if they just leave it alone.
No, because it's just whatever narrative you want to spin. It's allocation error. So the problem is that you could allocate the success whichever direction you want. Somebody who, based on their whatever bias, would go, oh, that new ownership did such a great job leaving that team in place, and that's why the games are successful. Or they would go, oh, the games team did such a good job, that's why the games are successful. You could allocate the success or the mistake either direction you want, and it just is based on however you want to frame it. That to me is just it's sort of doesn't make a difference. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know for me personally, I won't be making any plans until new ownership takes over and either confirms or changes what the season is, and then I think it's an appropriate time to make decisions. I just and anybody can do whatever they want. I'm not saying don't do otherwise, but to me, it just doesn't make any sense to do anything other than that, because we've seen how volatile these decisions can be in the past. They've been flipping about decisions all up and down the last 10 years I've been in the sport. So I'm just I'm not, I love to plan. I would love to be able to plan ahead. I would love if this announcement if I could just rely on it, but I just don't think it's at that point yet. And hopefully it will be soon. I think that we keep hearing it's going to be done soonish, and we'll start to get maybe a bit more of a clear view of this, but and it'll be what it is, and then we'll be able to make a decision. But one thing I will say, the announcement of their workout, the first one, they announced that a long time before. Hey, I don't remember exactly what it was before the game.
It was substantial anyway.
But that is actually one of the things that I thought that they did pretty well. I don't think that it needed to be that far in advance, but that was a longer workout. The heat, it's not crazy hot in Albany, but you could at least get an idea of what temperatures would be like. And what they did great was they released the map and all the medical information about where stops would be, what resources would be available, all this stuff kind of went out in a newsletter to all the athletes of what the conditions of that event would be from A to Z. So there was no surprises around it. And I think there's people who don't love that. But when it comes to events that are happening outside and there's less elements you can control, I think it's really important that you make it clear where your mitigating factors are and what you're doing to control things, and everybody kind of knows what's up. I think that was smart. That's kind of what we were asking for in 2024, and they told us no. So that's just obviously a clear lesson that they learned from that year, and I thought that was a super appropriate thing to do. Again, I know there were some athletes who said that they hated how early they announced it, because then you've got to train for it or you're being stupid, and they didn't like having to do that much long running and rowing for like whatever it was, like 2 months or something like that. They're like, well, I could have gone without that. But I think that was a fair decision by them.
After, so say the guts of a year now, when you see the CrossFit Athlete Council, that kind of stuff with the workout being announced, Dave and the team showing up at Wadapalooza, when you see those things happening, are you like, okay, yeah, this is all what we wanted, this is positive, this is all the change that we were asking for? Or are you like more cynical than that?
I'll be honest, I'm skeptical always, but it is movement in the right direction. All these things that have happened recently, like I said, what they did in last year's games, some of the decisions they made, those are positive. Those are things that we were asking about. I think that there are some things that were lost. So there's been something of a trade. The pay downs for athletes in like 20th to 30th place, I think don't exist anymore, which was something that we kind of worked hard to get a number of years ago. That stuff I don't love. But, I think that there's always give and take. And I think, I think that the team is trying really hard to make as many people happy as they can right now. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the company's changing hands. I don't think that's surprising. And I think that that's what anybody would do. Like, you'd be trying to make it really clear how important you are to the operations, and how good your relationships are with all the things, and how it would be much worse without you, or if you had to find somebody to do this job. And I think every member of the games, not even just the games team, like the affiliates, everything, like, I'm sure everyone is doing a little bit of a high wire act right now, because I guess you just don't really know necessarily what the vision is of the new ownership. So I think everyone's probably playing really nice right now, as nice as they ever would. I don't know if you agree with that, but that would be my like initial assessment of it, is like, I think it's good, but I think it's like right now is as good as it would ever be. And hopefully it stays there. Like, if it stays there and that ends up being the bar, terrific. Like, that's awesome. But if it's like, this is the high watermark because you're being like really scrutinized, and then as soon as that falls away, and like, you're right, if then the new ownership goes, hey, this season looks reasonable enough, green light, you guys are around for the next year, like, do a good job, and then it's all good. And then if it just sort of goes back down to normal, what I would consider normal for the last long time, then that's not great. So we hope that that's not the case. We hope it's a sign of better things to come, but I don't know. I mean, you just never know. And again, I just kind of always fall back on my personal experience, which hasn't been terrific. And I think that the best indicator for future behavior is past behavior. I have no reason to think that there are dramatic changes on the horizon, but hopefully I'm wrong.
If there's, say, two scenarios of new owners come in, and scenario A, they say, okay, yeah, this is great, continue, and the dates are what they are, we'll just assume they're set in the next, whatever, 3 weeks. They have all the semi-finals come back and say, yeah, we'll do it. And maybe one is added or taken away, but roughly that's the season. So scenario A, they come in and say, yeah, go ahead, do as you will. Don't fuck it up. And then scenario B, they come in and clean house and say like, no, forget it. We're doing it this way. All you guys, you're out. These new guys are coming in. Is it as likely that you compete or don't compete in both of those scenarios?
I don't know. I think that I haven't actually taken a close enough look at what next season would look like with what they've announced. And it doesn't help. I also don't think that WFP has their full schedule announced, so you can't get a full look at how everything lays on each other.
I also think that's coming this week, I think.
Yeah, coming soon. That'd be nice. I don't know. I guess it would just depend. If they came in and cleared house and said no to this season, it would depend what they were proposing as an alternative. If the alternative was
it's not
even more
necessarily
onerous and whatever.
It's not necessarily the clearing of house that's the deciding factor. Like if it continued as it is now, you'd be
honestly, Peter. Like I kind of don't. I'm beyond caring about that anymore. Like I am kind of the opinion that that team probably won't change ever. Like I have a hard time seeing meaningful change coming from that team. And you know what? Like maybe that's fine. Maybe they don't need to change, and that's okay. And you know, the people who want that, it's good for them. I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm whatever. Like if I don't have enough years left to compete, and I've tried to do things to make conditions better or understand what new athletes want. And you know, if that's what they want, then great. Then once I'm done, like it's their season. Like they can continue to fight for what they want or not. And that's fine with me. Like I don't need to worry about it anymore. So if I'm gonna do like one more season and then it's just like, you just sort of do it under whatever's going on, whatever. Like that's kind of fine. I'm getting I don't know, maybe I'm getting too old to worry. But I think that it's more about what the season is gonna be. And like, is it gonna be possible to do? Is it gonna be like too ridiculous? Do I think that it's too onerous? Do I think it's whatever? Then I'll maybe have to make a decision based on that. I'm not doing or not doing a season because of like a petty squabble. Like so if the season looks better and then they seem to be, you know, communicating things better and differently and like standards seem to be in place to keep everybody safe and happy and to keep the competition fair, like that's all we want. Like that's fine. So if they can prove in, you know, subsequent years and events that they can do that well, then hell yeah, that's awesome. But a lot of it to me, honestly, comes down to the fact that I don't think I can compete 10 times in a season. And I have to figure that out. I have to figure out where the line is on that thing. Cause what if you did like Open's not crazy, but it's not nothing. I wouldn't even
still a thing. Yeah.
But if you go quarters is a weekend, semis is a weekend, games is a weekend. Let's say WFP has 1, 2, 3, 4, call it 4. Let's say then you try to do Wodapalooza and like Rogue. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about here? Like, it's getting to be really crazy.
It's more opportunities to compete.
It is. But the problem with everything being in silos a little bit is, and this is what I mean about perhaps there's some world where there can be a little bit more hand-holding between events. But I know one of the goals of WFP was with multiple touch points. They were trying to make the competitions not too big of a beatdown, like slightly lower volume. We only have 6 workouts per weekend. It's 2 a day. It's not like, you know, a good games day. Most of the time you're doing 3 in a day, sometimes for 4 days. And so they were trying to avoid that and sort of change their formats so that if you did one, you wouldn't have to take like 3 weeks off of training.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could bounce back slightly faster. And if more events were adopting that format, then maybe that turnaround is fine. Where like you could do 1 in a month. But again, it comes down to a question of like how much time do you need to spend in a build phase versus a competition phase.
It sort of feels like it's people like you at your stage of your career and people like Nate Ackerman and like people like that at their stage of their career just coming up. It's like they're the ones that really need to manage the season, whereas the guys in the middle, the current crop of like the golden generation or whatever, they can kind of get away with it, where they have the gains already made enough to compete with each other, and they have like youth on their side enough that they can continue to just beat the shit out of themselves. And they probably have enough like love for it still to be like, well, back to the grindstone as soon as they finish competing at an event or whatever. They haven't lost that. They're not like peeling themselves out of bed being like, oh Jesus, here we go again yet. So I think they're the guys that are like, they'll make bank.
There's seasons to that stuff too though, right? Like if you go and you're competing 10 times in the year and you have 2 competitions in a row where you kind of get your ass kicked and you're like, or you're not at the level that you want it to be, it can be like the first one can be motivating. The second one can be like, all right, now I might be having a hard time getting out of bed. Like, so it's, you know, it's tough. I think that, you know, I am someone who I've always in my career competed more than most of my peers. Like, I like that part of it. It's starting to wear on me more. I think maybe it's just that I have more stress in my life outside of competition, and it's piling up a little, but it's tough. And like, that's where I think people can get mentally worn down, that even those guys that are like, you know, early to mid 20s, their bodies are great. Like, they can handle it. They got good level. I think it just mistakes can haunt you. And, you know, a couple bad events in a row can make you question things. And it starts to just be a bit of a mental battle, maybe more than it has been in the past, where you've got longer time to rebound after those bad finishes and, you know, maybe talk yourself back up or do some things that are going to make you more confident again in your performance. I don't know. It's a total experiment. If I'm being honest, it's just like, we don't know. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like. And nobody does. And those guys, like, talking to like James or Justin, or like, I feel like it would be good to talk to, because I don't think Justin did a semi. He just did the online. But some of the guys, like maybe Dallin or Jay, would be good guys to ask, because they did like a live semi. They did the online semi. They did Tier Cup. They did like they've done kind of everything so far. And then through Rogue and through WFP final, like, just be like, hey, how was that?
Yeah.
Because we don't know. And I mean, I think they've talked about it a bit, you know, between the games and Mesa. You know, they kind of said, yeah, like, I feel tired. I talked to Jay a bunch about it there, and it was interesting. He was like, I feel like I switched between like being really on and feeling like, you know, I just came off the games. I got to like back up my performance. Like, I really feel motivated. And then like 2 hours later, I can just feel like, I don't want to be here. Like, I need time. What am I doing? And that's tough. Like, I talked to him a bit, and I'm like, I feel like you probably feel like you're on like day 6 of a competition. Like, on day 3, it starts getting hard to eat. You don't want to warm up as long. Like, we always joke that your warm-ups get shorter and shorter the longer the weekend goes. And like, so just imagine that, but now it's like, how many more steps down the road are you? Like by the time you're there, like you feel like you don't want to do you don't warm up at all. Like, you're kind of like that whole rinse repeat of the turnover of warming up, staging, like competing, refueling, like that back to back to back. It's like, it kind of grinds you down. And if you're not long enough between competitions, it probably just kind of feels like there wasn't anything in between them. And like, you're stepping into the corrals again, and you're like, geez, all right, like, I'm back here for event 20.
And like Dallin was kind of saying that it's like maintenance, like that you get, like, you peak for the games, you get fit for the games, and then you just maintain through to SoCal, and then you maintain again through to Rogue, and then you try and build a bit between Rogue and, you know, you kind of come down and come back up between Rogue and, but like those guys on Boys Interrupted after World Fitness Project, the last one, they were like, I'm pretty tired. You know, they're like, just like,
it's hard to keep your level that high for that long. Like, it just is. Like, you just, like, if you're hitting cruising altitude here, like, if you're trying to peak there and just cruise, like, that's tough. Like, we dealt with that a bit the first year they did the sanctional thing, and like, I competed at Wadapalooza in like January and got my game spot. And then you kind of have this big block where you're like, I got to train for the games, but you can't be like training for the games hard for like 3 months. So then you're like doing this weird like blocks and deloads, and then, here's Rogues in the middle there, and I got to come back up. And now I have 6 weeks between Rogues and the games. And it was a really weird season to navigate. And now this is just like, it's kind of more like that, except you have a little bit less down. So you're almost like, you just don't even have those building blocks in the middle of the year. So I really don't know. We'll see what happens. And I think if they add more, it's going to be tough. It's fun. I mean, stuff like WFP, I think, you know, you don't have to do all the events. You just have to earn enough points. So it depends on how you want to approach that season. You can build your own adventure there.
Does your contract get affected if you skip an event? Like, say, is it that how it works, or is it over the course of the whole season, or what?
I can't remember exactly. I think there was a minimum though. There was like, you needed, and I think for this year you needed to go to 2
Okay, yeah. So probably 3 out of 4 next year or whatever, if there
Maybe,
is.
yeah, or there might just be something similar as like a minimum, and as long as you're hitting your minimum, and then it's just you're taking a hit on points. If you want to have a better shot at the final, you do more events. If you can be lights out for 2 of those and take 2 podium spots, maybe you still have a really good shot at the final. Like, and there probably, I think, will be more athletes taking that approach next year, particularly if there's conflict with like games. You might do 2 WFP events earlier in the year and then don't do one around the games and then build again,
or even
like one before, one after, like
that Wadapalooza one in March. The Spanish World Fitness Project sounds like it's going to be near March somewhere. So again, you're probably like, you'd weigh up your options a bit, I suppose, and say, will I get an early head start on the leaderboard in World Fitness Project, or will I go, like, there's an open announcement at Wadapalooza, that'll be fun, maybe I'll just go and do that, and it's Wadapalooza too.
I'm curious how that Wadapalooza in March will be. That'll be fun.
Yeah, what's Miami like in March? I'm so used to
much nicer. Like, I think the weather's more consistent.
Okay,
like that's spring break, I think, is when they're having it, basically.
Oh, okay. My first spring break. So World Fitness Project has had a year then, and you've done, like you say, you've been around whatever 10 years competing different competitions. How does it stack up? Like after or coming to the culmination of the season, are you like, this is brilliant, it's exactly what I wanted? Or are you like, well, it was, maybe didn't hit where I wanted to? Like, how do you feel about it?
I think the competition has been good. Like their events, their production, like their behind the scenes, like everything they're doing, like on and off the floor there, is really good. Like I think it's their product is nice. I think that my hope is we have lots of people come out in Copenhagen. I think the biggest battle that they've been fighting is like a bit of what they've been doing for arenas, and that's always tough because it's like you're trying to get probably a deal on arenas, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. Like Will might be able to talk about it, or maybe has. But stuff like people leave Phoenix in August. Like people get the hell out of there because it's so hot. So if you're trying to run an event there, then it's probably quite financially savvy to run it there in August. But you think you run out of people. It's just like that's not when people are there hanging out looking for things to do. So they've done a decent enough job. Like I think the community outreach stuff that they've had the athletes do is really awesome, to be honest. I think that the local gyms seem to really like it. The athletes have some fun doing it. It's not super onerous. Like everybody coaches like one class that for an hour you hang out with some people and then you kind of do your training, pre-competition training there anyway. So that's been pretty fun. I think they've done a really good job. I don't know the first thing about the cost and everything like that. I know that's obviously a big criticism of them is, of course, they're doing a good job. They're spending a ton of money. And I guess that's not really my job. Like, I think the athletes, if there's a good competition with good athletes there to compete against and good prizes, like go, like that's what the athlete's job is. And our job is to go where the hunting is. And it's been fun. Like, I think the level's been super high. I think you could make a very reasonable argument that the level at the WFP events has been higher than the level at the games. And I think that it's been fun. Like there's been cool opportunities. There's been cool races. We'll see. Hopefully the finals continues to live up to that, but I'd be excited for more of their events next year. And I guess then we'll just see. I think we have to see how it ends this year. And then we'll see what their plan is for next year. And I don't know. I hope it has long-term viability, but I think there is definitely going to be a point where there either needs to be greater collaboration or like there's just going to be too much cannibalization going on between competitions. Or it's going to be like boxing where there's just multiple federations and then there's like champions here and champions there and people just decide to do it, which is fine. But our community may not be big enough to handle that. So we'll see. I've enjoyed them. They've done a good job. They're fishing for feedback too. Like everybody, like they're asking all weekend long to spectators and athletes and everybody for feedback and all kinds of stuff. And even just feedback that they got from the first stop, they turned around and used for the next stop. So they're moving fast. They're learning fast. I think that everybody's going to trip a little bit when it's their first crack at something, but I think that they're doing a good job and they're trying to do right.
Similar to the athlete thing of it's the young and maybe the older athletes that might suffer a bit. Do you think it's the events like Wadapalooza and those that might suffer a bit because people will prioritize the games or they'll prioritize World Fitness Project, or if they prioritize both, then you're probably not doing Wadapalooza or SoCal if you're prioritizing both of the full seasons.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that much. In terms of, are you talking about athlete participation or fans?
More so athletes. I think the fans the fans are probably dependent on what athletes show up, I guess, to a certain extent. But I mean,
yeah, and a bit on location, I think too. Like I think geographically, trying to target locally is what's really good, and that's why I think the community outreach stuff that WFP does is really good. Is that they like come to an area far in advance, they engage all the local gyms, and then when they show up, they engage them again with athletes, and then they kind of generate people from that, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
I think that more likely those other events like Wadapaloozas are going to be fine. I think that more likely it would be WFP and CrossFit Games battling, because those are the ones that require multiple steps to this season. I think the Open is still the Open. Like I think it's kind of its own thing, but beyond that, like once you're at like quarterfinals, semifinals, etc., like maybe the semifinals is maybe more of a competition point for WFP. But again, it's sort of, I think geography is important, but the Wadapaloozas kind of stand on their own. So I just don't know. It's like a one stop, like done. Whereas the WFP is like, if you're committing to WFP as an athlete and you're signing up to go, okay, I'm in the challenger division, I'm trying to get into the elite division, the pro division for the next stop. Like you're sort of committing yourself to multiple stops along the season, which is more like, I guess, what the game season does and not like what any of the other ones do. So I don't know. Again, I think it's hard to predict things like this sometimes. Like maybe at the end of this year, you can do a little recap. You can try to gather some data and see what you can figure out from that.
Yeah, I think it's hard because, when you have, like, I feel like the World Fitness Project probably haven't done themselves any favors with the way that it's started, the way that they, like, some of the things, not that they necessarily said, but they inferred when they were starting up about, like, we can do it better, was sort of like the kind of party line, it felt like. So then, to me, that's setting themselves up for scrutiny of, all right, well, if you fuck one thing up, like, everyone's just going to be on you when you make that first mistake. And then the first event seemed to go by relatively unscathed. And then the second one, it was almost like, okay, we made a few mistakes at the first one, nobody fuck up. But then everyone was so nervous at the second one that there was more mistakes then at the second one. And I think it's hard because, I mean, when I heard that they approached like Torian as one of the tour stops, I was just like, you've kind of pissed people off by existing. Like, some people are just pissed off that you exist. And then you piss more people off, or even those people more, by setting up affiliates and stuff. And then it's just thought that, we're not at war with CrossFit, but like, we're going to approach Torian. And it's like, Torian's been at CrossFit semi-final for like as long as there's been semi-finals, and it's, from a CrossFit gym and stuff. So I think that kind of stuff sort of puts me in the camp of, I just cannot ever see them working together. Like, I just cannot ever see CrossFit saying, sure, come on in, let's have a chat. And I also kind of get the impression that Will sort of doesn't really want that either, or the World Fitness Project don't really want that either. They're just like, no, we'll just do our own thing, and it's two separate things, and that's fine. So I don't know, the sustainability thing is, I agree. I think it's either going to be, some athletes are going to pick the games, some athletes are going to pick World Fitness Project, some are going to do both. And the ones that do both, I cannot see a way for them to also do SoCal, Wadapalooza. Like, I think competitions like Dubai are just going to fall off, because I just think they can't. They'll be the last ones left, like Rogue, Wadapalooza, and SoCal. And then it's the ones outside of that will struggle to, because they can't, like, if Dubai contact Dallin and say, hey, he's going to be like, dude, no, like, it's January, like, I'm just finished. You know what I mean? Like, it's extra noise when there's all the volume's already all the way up with all the other stuff that's already there.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, again, geography matters. Like, I feel like Dubai has always been a predominantly European and Australian competition. So
there was that 1 year, yeah, but
if
big year.
If the remaining, let's say WFP, like this year they had 2 North American stops. The divisions are predominantly going to be North American, like they just are, because it's easier to travel. And then if other parts of the world are trying to look for other league competitions, they might still look to things like Dubai. So I don't know. Look, I think that things can change over time. I think that it's easy to come in with an idea and a chip on your shoulder, which, maybe the members of the WFP team did. And then after a year of doing it, soften your approach a little bit. To be honest, I think that WFP has been unfairly treated from the go. I think that an event like Rogue, when they started up, nobody fucking threw sand in their eyes and was like, oh, you think you can, nah. Like, people love Bill and Katie, and they run a great event. And I think that WFP has run great competitions, even with some of the, you say they made a lot of mistakes in Mesa, and like there were mistakes, but I assume you're speaking about equipment malfunctions and things like that were like very obvious.
Even there was like some athletes were talking about scoring adjustments and, maybe being a bit too loose with the pen at the appeals thing. And, like there was,
whatever. But those were as a result of the equipment malfunctions. So I would just say that like those things that happened, I actually think they did a reasonable job of remedying them. And I may not agree with the outcome of the remedies all the time, but they didn't slam the door in anybody's face. They were like, yes, there was an equipment malfunction. That's on us. We're going to talk about a best way to resolve this. And I think they did a pretty good job of managing appeals and making it a reasonably fair and competitive competition. Like, I just think like they have been, heavily scrutinized and insulted for the effort to make another really good competition for people to show up at, engage more brands, engage more athletes, do things, which I just think is funny to me. It feels petty. Like, it feels like, why, how come they are like bad? Like,
I mean, I guess
even when you're like, oh, like it's the way they started up, like after the 24 games and whatever, it's like, yes, like the 24 games was not good, Peter. Like, it wasn't. That was terrible. And then the way it was managed afterwards was even worse. So another organization said like, wow, that was really bad. Hey, maybe we're going to try to do something and see if we can create some other space for people to compete, just in case this continues to be as bad as it's looking right now, which it was. Like, I don't think that anybody can say it wasn't. And so then they did that, which is like kind of trying to do a good thing. And everybody got so mad. Like, what the fuck?
If they had said that, I think some people still
would
have been pissed
read enough
off.
Press releases. Like, maybe I just didn't read enough press releases. I think a lot of people had a bias going in.
There definitely was bias. Like, definitely, I fully agree there is bias.
And I think heavily the people that are scrutinizing them and like getting mad at them, it's the same group of people that have a heavy allegiance just across it. And that's fine. But like, they're not doing anything wrong. Like, if Wodapalooza runs their event and nobody gets pissed at them, Rogue runs their event, nobody gets pissed at them. Like, what's going on? Like, it seems like laughably biased to me. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just not paying attention, which I'm not all the time.
If Rogue and Wodapalooza had set up their event to be a multiple stage event across the calendar year, I think they probably would have been treated somewhat closer to what World Fitness Project has.
Wodapalooza's got 2 stops now. How for the last 2 years?
It kind of doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, there's its own separate.
Like, you can do. Here come the excuses.
No, but you can do Miami and not do SoCal. Like, you have to be invited to be on the SoCal.
You don't have to do all the WFP ones either. No, but you did engage athletes.
But okay, but like, you can't qualify to be on a SoCal team. Like, you're invited to do it.
What kind of happened is they were like, people got mad because athletes were offered contracts, and you were like, oh, this means that like they're stealing away the athletes. Like, it's the athletes' fault also for accepting the contracts, by the way. People were like, if you took a WFP contract, you're selfish. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, we're just like, they're all basically, it's a marketing contract. So you're like, hey, I'm gonna promote these events and I'm gonna go compete at them. So for one thing, fans and spectators and community knows where I'm gonna compete and when, which in a lot of years in the past, the CrossFit Games with their late announcements of season stuff didn't do a very good job of producing for people. And WFP is solving some of that problem. Like, it's just like they were trying to solve a lot of problems. And I feel like they, and as well as athletes who engage with them, kind of got the shit kicked out of them. And also, like, for some reason, athletes who signed a contract with WFP, but then also did the games, were somehow not selfish. But the athletes who did just WFP and chose not to do the games were like shit on. Like it just like it was a clear like just smear campaign against WFP, which is wild. So I don't know. Like it feels to me like there could just be a little more live and let live. Like I don't know why the athletes are responsible for what the business strategy of WFP is, and because we're forward facing and have a platform, you can come kick us in the face, and that's fine. But it just seems like I don't know. I don't know why. Like there's a lot of other big events that exist and operate, and you know have some do have multiple touch points in the year, but you know they get a pass, and WFP gets a bloody nose every time they fucking do anything. And then and nobody really talks about the good things that they do or are trying to do. And I will fully admit I don't know anything about what they're doing with their affiliate program. I don't know what that is, and I don't know anything about it. I think they're running pretty decent community events. I think they have community workouts and stuff they're doing. They're trying to create through lines between their community events and their pro events. Like I think they're actually doing a pretty good job. And I will totally admit this year I have leaned way back on following the news in the CrossFit space because I just have found it to be not beneficial for me. And I've enjoyed spending more time at home with my people and less time with my face on the internet. But so maybe I am just wrong and I'm living in my own world, but it feels, I don't want to say unjust, like, oh, woe is me, but it just feels like it seems misplaced in some way. Like I don't get why this and not that in some cases, and it's confusing to me. So it's my rant.
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. I don't think we'll agree on Rogue and Wodapalooza being in the same bracket as World Fitness Project. I think we'll disagree there, but I do agree that there is bias, and I do agree that athletes who did both wouldn't have been scrutinized as much as athletes who chose. But I think that's a protective thing. Like it's like I guess those athletes were probably seen as not turning their back on what made them, sort of thing. I think that was the kind of that it's like, well, the reason that you are where you are is because of CrossFit. So then if you suddenly turn around,
but that whole thing is based on the like underlying premise that things never change, which to me is just like, that's wrong. Like, what are we talking about here? So you're saying that like if you liked something as a kid, you're never allowed to not like it ever again, or you're like if you were in a relationship with someone and you love them and then they became abusive, you're required to stay? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're allowed to continue to appraise the information as it comes in and decide what you want to do. Like, that's just how people should live. Like, vilifying people because they don't have absolute undying loyalty is insane. Like, that's an insane stance to take. It just is. I don't know. I have been given a lot of opportunities because of, I have earned a lot of opportunities through competing in CrossFit, and I'm grateful for all of them. But if that organization were to start, like, I don't know, like doing some really crazy stuff, like I would stop. I would just be like, oh, I don't support this organization anymore. And it would be the same for anything. Like, people do it all over in their lives. Like you just like you engage with the things that seem to agree with what your worldview is, or your morals, or your whatever. And if you just are looking at something and kind of furrowing your brow going, I don't understand this anymore. It's not the same. It's not the same that it was when I loved it, or maybe I'm not the same. That's totally fine. Like, I don't know. And I don't know why people need to be attacked for those decisions. It's just like, it makes no sense to me. So that is partly why I stopped kind of paying attention to stuff. I was just like, I feel like this is turning into just finger pointing at people for like, you made a different decision than I made. And like, great, but like, you're not me. And if you were me, you would have made the same decision I made. So like, I don't know, like, how about we try to approach things with a little bit of understanding and a little bit of like leeway here. It seems like it got a little crazy. And I don't know. I'm not super here for that. Like, that just knee-jerk accusations on people it got crazy. And so we back away slowly.
Yeah, I think it's probably sort of like the whole global climate is it's just like a microcosm of that as well, isn't it? Where it's like,
it feels that way. I think people are defensive. People are defensive of the things they love, and I totally understand that. but I think it's okay. I don't know. It's okay to like let other people like things or do things a different way than you. And then it's still okay to like engage with those people civilly also, and not have to just like, you don't think like me, like you're a piece of shit. Like that, it's just like, it's weird. It's just weird. Like I don't know. I have no hate for the people who did the CrossFit Games season this year. And like I said, I might do it next year. Like, I don't know. Like I'm making decisions as I get information. I'm trying to like make the decisions that make the most sense for me in my life. Like, I don't know. It's not like out of disrespect. And I fully, like I said, I have a hard time personally, like understanding how people could not see why you might make the decision that I made, to be like, oh, looking at how the CrossFit organization responded to what happened last year, I think was really bad. Like them pulling people along for a really long time and then just pulling the rug out and being like, just kidding, we're not going to tell you guys anything. That felt crazy. Like that felt crazy. And we kind of called it a long time before that they might do that, and people called us crazy. And then when they did it, we were like, no outcry, no whatever. And then it's just like, here comes the open. And it was like, to me, that felt like, I don't know how people weren't more upset by that. Like that they just kind of lied to everybody for like 5 months and then just sort of buried it. Like, okay. So like, I'm just like looking at it like that. Like I'm looking around for like, where's the outrage for things like that? And there just kind of isn't any suddenly. But then like there's outrage at me because I said I won't do the open. Like, okay, like that's fine, I guess. Like put your outrage wherever you want. But I think that there's just, yeah, like everybody's just trying to make decisions. I get it, but I don't know. Some of that stuff just, that's why I tried to, once I made the decision, actually last year, I felt pretty good just like not engaging for a little while. And it was quite refreshing to just like, I had a very clear vision of what my year was going to look like. I've got these WFP events. I've got, Rogue and Wadapalooza and what have you. So I could just kind of turn my focus and not engage with a lot of the noise, which, there continues to be. And there always will be lots of noise and lots of disagreement and whatever. And I think disagreement's healthy, but I think accusations are less so.
So Rogue, how are you feeling with prep for that? Are you like bashing out log muscle ups, or what are you up to?
Well, I'm gonna start today. Once we're done here, I'll start. It's my first day back today. Basically, I did like light training through the weekend. But no, I don't. I saw everybody's getting the logs now. I'm not gonna do that. I think the funniest thing they could do now is not do log muscle ups.
I fully agree. But I saw Sprague putting up a video yesterday saying they finally clicked or whatever, and I was like, part of me just wants them not to be programmed now, just because it'd be funny.
You know what I know is like, I know that last year Josh was not happy with how the log muscle ups turned out in that workout. So I don't know what that means. Like maybe they won't do them. Maybe they'll try to dose them differently. I think 3 years in a row, maybe it doesn't need to be there. I feel the same way about having a heavy back squat workout for like 4 years in a row. Maybe we don't need to do that, but Josh loves a heavy back squat for reps. So I don't know. We'll see. I got to start doing some stuff like that though. Just mostly like some heavy stuff again. I haven't been doing a lot of heavy in a while, which has been good. It's been good for my knee and like good for my body, but I think it's about that time again.
What are you? What age are you? 36?
Sorry?
What age are you? 36? Is it 35?
35 now, yeah.
35.
30,
yeah. Obviously, we're like very different, but like I also have kids, and there are days where it gets to like 8 p.m. and I'm like, God, I haven't trained. Like, what the fuck? How can I pick myself up to go out now at 8 p.m. and do something? Is it getting harder for you to like motivate yourself to? I know it's somewhat seasonal and stuff. Like if Rogue is coming up, you're like, Jesus, I don't want to be embarrassed at Rogue. I better get my ass in gear. But like, is it hard just to consistently find motivation to keep going and keep, maybe for a half a kilo to be added to your squat or whatever to try and keep up with people?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think the kids make a big difference in that. It changes my schedule a little bit, but most of the time, it just means that like I have very specific windows I have to work in, and so like I don't have negotiation time. Like I got to show up and I have to start now because I have to be done by 4, and so 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
So some days it's like I don't spend as much time warming up and stuff as I should.
What are warm-ups?
It's funny. I feel like recently I've been noticing that, like, say in SoCal or at WFP, I just like spent some good time warming up before some of the lifting events, and like I got nothing else to do on there, and I was there by myself without my family at WFP, and most of the day in SoCal when we're at the event, I'm by myself, so just kind of like kicking tires, warming up longer, and I felt so good. I was like, man, I gotta do more of this. But I don't know. Like I try not to stress too much about load anymore, to be honest. I just think I could spend a lot of time and energy trying to add, 5 kilos onto one of my lifts, and it probably is going to be harder on my body than like it needs to be.
Yeah.
I'm not the strongest guy, and I won't be. Like, what I'm going to compete for like one more year. Like, it's not worth the time investment, I don't think, anymore. I need to be doing enough to maintain the level I have. I don't test very much, so like I PR'd my clean and my jerk this year at both the WFP events because I feel like I just don't do them. So, I think there's still like maybe a little bit of wiggle room compared to what I think, but we're certainly not building a crazy amount. The focus is more on keeping my body healthy. Like, we cut down a bunch of training volume since the first WFP stop, just to try to give my body a little more recovery time.
Has your training changed since HWP, or is it still Michelle doing everything and it's just continue as it was?
It's just still Michelle. She just does mine.
Okay.
But that since early this year, we basically changed my schedule a little bit to be one less training, like intensity training day a week, which so far has been good. I think it's been kind of what my body needed. And I don't know, I think that's one of those maybe things with age that I have been fighting against for a while, but now that I've just settled into it, my body agrees to it a lot more.
All right. I better go in and relieve my wife of the 2, hopefully still just 2 sick kids. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
it's great to catch up. Try not to leave it as long next time.
Awesome, some worries.
What day is today? Tuesday. Tomorrow, debate show tomorrow at 3 Eastern, and then the spin is on. I think they're releasing the crash workouts at the spin, actually.
When is crash?
17th to the 19th of October.
Nice.
I could probably get you a spot if you want. That'd be 10K.
Oh, maybe.
Like,
I would say no. I wouldn't step over 10K.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, they do a good event. They do a good event at Crash. They do a good job.
They do.
So
they really do. Thanks everyone for watching as well. Good luck and God bless. Good night.
Yeah,
I just ended it there.
Thanks for having me. Good luck.
Yeah.
I'll enjoy my prep, and it's going to be hard, and I can't wait.
Cheers, Pat. Good talking to you, man.
Cheers, buddy.
All the best.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.